Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Happy July. I know I'm a day early, but I have more time today to answer more of your questions and to give you the information that you need. And what are we going to talk about today? Super important topic, the secret to workers' compensation impairment ratings that are going to get you paid. The things you need to know about impairment ratings, and that's what we're going to talk about today. As always, folks, if you have questions, please post them up here on Instagram, post them on YouTube, and I will do everything I can to get to all your questions. But right now, we're going to jump right in here. Most injured workers don't realize that there's a single number, their impairment rating, that really decides the value of their case. When looking at and settlement and evaluating settlements, your impairment rating is the most important thing. It is the linchpin. It is the big number that gets your big number, and that's what you really need to focus on. Today, we're going to break down how your impairment rating is set, the tricks insurance companies use to keep it down, and the steps you can take to keep that number where it needs to be and to maximize the money in your pocket. If you get it wrong, you could lose tens of thousands of dollars. If you get it right, you can maximize your benefits. And that's what we're going to jump into today. So hold on for the ride, folks. And as always, again, if you have questions, post them up there, and I will do everything I can to get to all your wonderful questions. You guys have never let me down with fantastic questions, and I hope today is more of the same. So what is an impairment rating in your workers' compensation case, and how and when is it usually determined? An impairment rating, generally speaking, is a number given from your doctor to describe your overall level of permanent disability. It's a permanent disability ranking. It's given after you reach maximum medical improvement, MMI, and we've discussed that in the past. Your doctor is going to offer his opinions on your level of permanent impairment for whatever disabilities you have, and the insurance company oftentimes is going to ask their doctor to examine you and offer his opinion on your maximum medical improvement. In New York State, there's generally two types of cases, two types of impairment ratings that we discussed, and we've gone over this in the past. There's the schedule loss of use. It's a percentage loss of use of a specific body part. Schedule loss cases usually deal with extremities, arms, legs, hands, feet, fingers, toes, hearing, and vision is included in there. But schedule loss, for the most part, we think of arms and legs, hands and feet, fingers, toes. Non-schedule, a non-schedulable injury, a non-schedulable impairment rating is usually an assessment of your overall level of permanent disability, whether it's partial or total. Most of the time it's partial, but it's an overall assessment of your level of disability as a whole, as a human, as a person. And those usually are the cases, the head, neck, and back cases. They could be systemic injuries, COVID, long COVID we're seeing popping up from time to time now that COVID is, the dust is settling and some people are dealing with long COVID issues. Heart attacks, strokes, things like that sometimes occur at work. And those are your non-scheduled cases. These are the numbers that we use to assess and determine your overall settlement value when it comes time to settle your case. And sometimes, like we've said in the past, we try to kind of figure out what your impairment rating or your schedule loss might be, or what we're anticipating it's going to be before we get it, so that we can start the ball rolling on a settlement negotiation. And we can do it before we get that number, so that there's a little bit of uncertainty or confusion with the insurance company as to what they're going to expect. Since we don't have any hard numbers yet, we can usually ask for a little bit more and try to pin them back using that. But when we're reaching that level of that point when your injuries are reaching maximum medical improvement, that's when we start talking settlement. That's when we start anticipating permanency, schedule loss, and things like that. How does my impairment rating determine how much workers' compensation pays? And great question, Rex. Thank you, Rex. So for non-scheduled loss of use cases, did I lose a bullet point here? I might have lost a bullet point here. For non-scheduled loss of use cases, let me make sure I didn't lose my bullet points. Yes, for non-scheduled loss of use cases, so your head, neck, and back injuries, systemic core body injuries, things like that, your impairment rating, the first thing the judge is going to do is look at your impairment rating, look at what your disability level is. From a medical or a psychological perspective, or both if you have multiple injuries. So they're going to figure out what your disability is. Back in the day, it used to be a percentage. You have a 50% permanent partial disability. You have a 75% permanent partial disability. A bunch of years ago, they changed that scale. They changed that over to a system of charts and tables and corresponding letter grades. It's super confusing now. It was way easier when you told somebody they had a 50% disability. We all can kind of figure out what that means. But if I tell you have an 11.2 severity ranking C to your lumbar spine, you're going to look at me like I have 6 heads, and you'd be right to do so because it's super confusing. The way it works now, there's different tables depending on the type of injury you have, the body part, and whether it's a soft tissue, whether there's been surgical intervention. There's a whole bunch of different factors that tell the doctors which table you fall into, and then how they are to assess the appropriate letter grade to give you. Now, though, since that change has happened, what has also happened is vocational factors come into play as well. So not only is the judge going to figure out what your overall level of permanent disability is based upon your injuries and your disability alone, the judge will then factor in your vocational background, and that could be used to increase or decrease your overall permanent impairment for those core body injuries, those head, neck, and back injuries. And ultimately, it's referred to as LWEC, loss of wage earning capacity. So we used to call it permanent partial disability. We still do because it's the jargon, it's the talk, it's the way nerdy comp attorneys talk to each other. But the real term that we use is LWEC, loss of wage earning capacity. How much has your wage earning capacity been impaired as a result of your injuries and your disabilities? And how does your vocational background factor into that as well? So one example we give, don't know why the phone's ringing right now. I thought I shut it off. It's off now. One example that I always give people, I know we spoke about this a week or two ago. If you take two people with the exact same injury, they both have herniated L5, S1, herniated disc in their back with radicular symptoms with surgical intervention. They had the same injury, the same surgery. Person A is 40 years old, Harvard educated, speaks 3 different languages, is an astrophysicist, is studying for his MCATs to become a doctor. He's a brilliant guy. He's a genius, and has a long work history of doing very technical things, and the guy is brilliant. That's person number 1. Person number 2, person B, has the exact same injury, but unfortunately, he might not be the brightest guy in the world. He can't read and write. He can only speak one language, which is not a very widely used language in America or in New York, I should say. I'm not even going to guess at what language that could be because here in New York, everyone speaks everything. And the only job he's ever had in his lifetime is sweeping floors in a warehouse, and he somehow hurt his back. You have these 2 people with the identical injuries, okay? But one of them, their vocational background makes it easier for them to find future work. The other person, their vocational background might make it more difficult for them to find future work with that same injury. So their vocational backgrounds are going to factor in. So let's say the judge determines that, just to make it easy, both of these gentlemen have a 50% permanent partial disability as a result of their physical injury to their lower back. Well, person A might be determined to have a 30% loss of wage earning capacity because it might be easier for him to find work down the road than person B, who might be found to have a 75 or an 80 or 100% disability when you factor in his vocational background. So when determining impairment rating, you need to consider your level of disability that results from the accident, as well as your vocational background. And it's super important. I know it sounds kind of fundamentally easy and elementary, but it's really important at this stage to have an attorney who knows how the system works, who knows how to question you when it comes time to take vocational testimony, in addition to your permanent disability litigation. It's super important. And going in there alone, going in there with somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, you're really putting yourself at a loss, because the insurance company attorneys do this every day. This is what they make a living on. They know how to ask questions. They know how to make it look like your wage earning capacity is not as bad as you make it seem to be, and they're going to try to make it look like you have a really low level of disability so that you get a low amount of benefits for a relatively short amount of time when permanent disability is assessed. And those numbers are the numbers we would use at that point to figure out what your settlement should be if, in fact, we are going to try to settle your case. You need a lawyer at that point. It's super important. And if you don't have a lawyer, you should go and look for one. And if you want to look for me, you could call me. My number's on the bottom of the screen right there on the YouTube and on the Gram and TikTok. It's not, but it's 212-406-8989. Feel free to give me a call. We've been getting tons of calls from great people looking for help, and I'm doing everything I can to help whoever I can. So please, if you need any help, give me a call. If you're out of state, we can help find attorneys in your state who can help you with similar situations. But that's how here in New York State, how a LWEC works. So it's those core body injuries, head, necks, and backs, strokes and heart attacks, things like that. Now, when an LWEC determination is made, the percentage of loss of wage earning capacity corresponds to a number of weeks of benefits that you receive your compensation for. And the higher your LWEC, the higher your permanent disability finding, the longer you get money and the more money you get over that time. So if a judge finds that you have a 75% loss of wage earning capacity, I got my little cheat sheet right here, you would get a 75% rate of compensation. So you get 75% of 2/3 of your average weekly wage, or the easy way to do the math is half of your average weekly wage. For 75% is 400 weeks. 400 weeks. So 400 weeks is 7.69 years. So if you have a 75% disability, you're going to presumably be entitled to that rate of compensation for 7.7 years. Or if you go back to work, it would be reduced. A 50% disability, just to contrast, gets you a 50% rate of compensation. So it gets you half of 2/3 of your average weekly wage, or 1/3 of your average weekly wage for 300 weeks. 300 weeks is 5.77 years. So it's a little more than 2 years less time that you get that money, and you're getting less money. So the higher your LWEC, the more money you get, the longer you get it. And if you haven't reached a settlement at that point in time, let's just hope it's an insurance company that does settle cases. That finding of a loss of wage earning capacity now gives us a good framework of how to figure out what to settle your case for. It's going to tell the insurance company how long they have to pay you and how much they have to pay you over that time. And now it's a matter of just boiling it down to present dollar value, which unfortunately does come with a discount. If the insurance company is going to pony up a large check right now, they're going to want a discount to do it. But that's how we figure it out. The higher your LWEC, the more money you get. For schedule loss of use injuries, now we're shifting gears here. For those extremity injuries, those arms, those legs, those hands, those feet, those fingers, those toes, each body part has a value. The state has given each body part a value. I've showed you guys my little chart before, and there it is. An arm, total loss of use of an arm gets you 312 weeks of compensation. So if the doctors agree that you have a 10% SLU, schedule loss of use of an arm, you're going to get 31.2 weeks of compensation. Now, here's where a big difference comes in between schedule loss and non-schedule loss cases. In a schedule loss case, contact lens, schedule loss case, the insurance company gets to take credit for the prior payments that have been made to you, not the medical payments, not the money they've paid your doctors to treat you, but the money that they've paid you. So if you got compensation for lost time, they're going to take credit for that. If your employer paid you sick time or salary or whatever while you were out, they're going to get a reimbursement. They're going to take credit for that. So there is a deduction. If you did get paid compensation for your lost time, they're going to take credit for that out of that schedule loss of use award. Like I said, an arm is worth 312 weeks of compensation. A hand is 244. A foot is 205. A thumb is 75. Each body part has its own value. The state has figured out how much your arm is worth and how much your leg is worth. And it doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed or right-footed or left-footed. An arm is an arm is an arm, and they're all worth the same amount. The other important aspect of determining the value there is also average weekly wage, which is what we discussed last week. And if you missed it, I'll try to get you a link somewhere, or it should be the most recent video before this one. Average weekly wage is also super, super, super important. What are things that can lower my impairment rating? So how can you hurt yourself, and how can you be hurt if you're not paying attention and you don't have a lawyer who knows what they're doing? There's a couple things that could really lower your impairment rating that you want to look out for. Number one, not getting your own doctor's opinion, not getting a rating from your doctor. I bang my head against the wall sometimes when an insurance company submits their own permanency report, whether it's on permanent non-schedule disability or schedule loss of use, and we wind up in front of a judge, and the judge says, okay, claimant to produce the form that we use. Just to backtrack for 1 second, the form that we use is called a C4.3. You could find it online. You can get a blank one. I give clients blank ones when we need it, and I say, go make an appointment and see your doctor and put this form in his face and tell him to fill it out. The form is called a C4.3 form, and a judge will say, hey, we have permanency, SLU, whatever, from the insurance company doctor, claimant to produce a 4.3, a C4.3 within 60 days or 30 days or 45 days or 75 days, whatever they say. But the judge will give you an opportunity to go see your doctor and get a report from him with his opinion. And it shouldn't be as common as it is, but people miss the boat all the time. Oh, I was supposed to go next week, and it was too hot out. I didn't feel like going. Oh, I had an appointment last week, but my brother was in town, and wouldn't you know, we stayed out late, and I couldn't make it. Go keep those appointments. Get those reports, because if you don't do it, some judges won't even give you a second shot if you miss the first one. Go get those reports. Get your doctor's opinion on record. Get something to use to your advantage, because the insurance company doctor works for the insurance company, and their report is not going to be, generally speaking, as good as what your doctor has to say. Oftentimes, it's rare. Sometimes the insurance doctor finds a greater level of disability than a treating doctor, but it's rare. And you should be able to get the opinion of your doctor who's been treating you, who's been providing you with the therapy, who's been providing you with medication, who did your surgery, whatever. You should get his opinion or her opinion on record and get that report. Don't miss the boat. You're losing out if you don't do this. And far too many people just brush it aside and don't really pay much attention to it. And if you miss the boat and the judge precludes you from getting that report, it's going to hurt. So don't. That's probably the biggest tip I have. Follow up with your doctor, keep seeing your doctor, and get that permanency report from your doctor. Like I said, the IME doctors often provide a lower assessment of your level of disability, just statistically speaking. I'm not saying anything other than that. But if that's the only evidence that's in your file and you're precluded from getting your own report, you're stuck with it, essentially. That's it. We could cross-examine that doctor and try to show that maybe his findings were on the low side, but that's really taking a risk. So not only getting that report, but having a strong report. Talk to your doctor. Let your doctor know what's going on. Let your doctor know about, like we've said before, your past history, intervening accidents, prior injuries. Make sure they know all that so the report is solid on its foundation, because if we can't reach an agreement with the insurance company, we're going to have to take depositions from these doctors. And if the doctor, I just got off the phone with a client, literally, I know I say this all the time, but I'm not bullshitting you. I literally just got off the phone with a client whose case is going down the tubes because his doctor had no idea that he had all this past medical history. And when we started taking testimony, the doctor's like, I had no idea about all this stuff. Well, doctor, could that change your opinion? Well, he'd be lying if he said no, but he said, yeah, it could change my opinion. It could change my opinion drastically. I didn't know that he had a surgery 10 years ago on his low back. He never told me. Well, boom, the ship has been sunk, and there's no coming back from that. So make sure your doctor knows what's going on. Make sure you see him consistently while you're treating. Make sure you go back for that permanency report. Make sure he knows what's going on with you and your life and your injuries, so that his report is solid and strong and you have strong medical evidence. When it comes down to getting testimony from your doctor versus their doctor, one very solid thing that we can rely on is, doctor, how many times have you seen Mr. So-and-so? Oh, he comes in once every 6 weeks, and we go through any intervening history, and we have discussed. Doctor, did you know that he hurt his back 7 years ago in a motor vehicle accident? Yes, I did know that. I requested the medical records from his doctor, and it showed that he had relatively minor injuries, which were made much worse as a result of this accident. Great. He explained it, and it made sense, and now he looks good. As opposed to the doctor where you say, doctor, did you know they had a motor vehicle accident 7 years ago? Nope, I had no idea. That motor vehicle accident could have been the most minor fender bender BS accident in the world. But if you don't know about it, it could also have been getting run over by an 18-wheeler, because he has no way of explaining it. So strong, solid medical evidence will keep your case in a good place when you're going in front of a judge. The judge is going to, if we can't reach an agreement with the insurance company, it's up to the judge to make a decision. And you want the judge to make a decision based upon all of the medical in a way that's most beneficial to you. And if your doctor seems like he doesn't know what he's talking about, you're going to get hammered. If you see your doctor once every 6 weeks, once every 2 months, once every 3 months, even for the last 2.5 years, he should know exactly what's going on. And we can use that to contrast the insurance company doctor. How many times did you see my client? I saw him one time to do a permanency evaluation. How long was that assessment? 11 minutes. Cool. The doctor who sees you for 11 minutes shouldn't know that much about you, because you're only there for 11 minutes, and we're going to bring that out. But you need to have that strong medical evidence to push you and push your case forward, to give you the strength to get the highest level of permanency findings you can get in accordance with your doctor's medical. Strong medical evidence, super important. One thing also you need to avoid, and it comes up, and listen, sometimes we're talking about malingering, faking it. Yes, sometimes the insurance the company doctor will say there's some malingering, and we can go back and forth about what was there, and maybe he's kind of malingering himself, making it seem worse than it was, but it does happen. When you go to see the insurance doctor or your doctor, give them the full effort you can. Don't give them the opportunity to say that you were faking it, you were malingering, you were making it worse than it is, you were restricting your motion, you were over complaining about your pain, things like that, because it doesn't look good. And there are certain judges that when they see that malingering, it automatically adds that negative inference, a negative connotation to your case, a stigma, if you will. Kind of like we've spoken about with fraud. Even if you didn't commit fraud and it's clear, sometimes in certain circumstances, when fraud is mentioned, now you've been stigmatized. And to get out of that is next to impossible. You want to avoid that stigma. You want to avoid the stigma of being called a fraud or being called a malingerer, a faker. So give your best efforts. Make sure the doctor knows you're doing the best you can. Don't try to BS them, because they know, they're doctors. They've been doing this their entire careers. Insurance company doctors are usually on the tail end of their career. There are many that are in the midst of their career, but there's a good percentage of insurance company doctors that do it as part of their retirement plan. They don't actively treat patients anymore, and they get an office full of people 1 or 2 days a week that's provided to them for an insurance company. They do their assessments, and they write their reports, and they move on with their semi-retired life. And they've seen it all. And you're not going to BS them, and don't try. One thing you should also know, and as the Steph, it's not any Steph, it's the Steph. If you're enjoying the content that I provide you and the information to help you with your case, please hit the like button and subscribe. We love it, and I love it, and it makes me happy. And the happier I am, the more I'm going to be happy. Dumbass. What else? Skipping treatment. Skipping treatment looks so bad. Because not only is an arguing point from the insurance company, not only can they sit there and talk about it and talk about how in January the doctor recommended 8 weeks of physical therapy. Doctor, what did you anticipate would be the outcome after 8 weeks of physical therapy? I would anticipate improved range of motion, decreased pain, and blah, 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 blah. Well, doctor, since he stopped going after the second week and missed 6 months of physical therapy, wouldn't you say that had a negative impact on his healing? Well, yeah. It looks terrible. Not only does it sound terrible to hear that argument being made about you and your case, it actually looks bad, because when the judge goes into your screen with your medical reports and sorts them by date, and there is a huge gap because you haven't seen a doctor in 6 months. He's going to say, why haven't you seen a doctor in 6 months? And you better have a really good explanation, because it's going to hurt you. COVID doesn't work anymore. For people to say, oh, it's COVID and I had blah, 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 blah. COVID was an explanation for a couple of months. And after that, we had telemed visits and we had ways around this problem. And COVID is no longer a place to hang your hat. So go see your doctor. If your doctor's prescribing treatment and giving you appointments and trying to help you, keep up with it. I have so many clients that, new cases or whatever, that need a doctor, and we try to get them set up with a doctor, or try to call, they want to see Dr. Smith in Borough Park, and I call Dr. Smith and they say, I can't get an appointment. And I call the doctor and he's like, I'm booked up for the next 4 months. Well, if you're not going to your appointments, I can put somebody else in that doctor's office who would really love to see him, or, any doctor for that matter. Go to your appointments, keep up with your doctors, get yourself better, help you, help your case, help me help you, help your case. Whew. Water break. Whew. That was a good rant I went on, and I'm giving myself the gold star because I deserve it. Don't skip treatment. That's the most important point. Pre-existing conditions, we just talked about this. Make sure your doctor knows about it. Make sure the insurance company doctor knows about it. Somebody just fell off a chair out there. What happened? It was a what? They knocked over the trash can. Never a dull moment. Pre-existing conditions. Make sure your doctor knows. Make sure the insurance company doctor knows. Make sure your lawyer knows, so that when I file the claim, I can write it on the C3 and we're not hiding it from anybody. Intervening accidents, same thing. If you got hurt in April of this year, we're now in July, and in May, a month later, you had a car accident, call me and tell me about it. You would be surprised how many people don't give me that information. And then when I go to court and the insurance company does an ISO search, which is a database, and it pops up that you had an accident a month later. Sir, did you have an accident on May 18th? Oh, yeah. I got rear-ended. Really? What parts of your body did you hurt? My neck and my back. Well, don't you think you should have told somebody about that? Oh, it's a different accident. I didn't think it mattered. No, it matters. It's the same body part. It's the same you. It absolutely matters. Please tell us what's going on. Tell us about your prior injuries. Tell us about your subsequent problems, and make sure that we know about it so we can get out in front of those problems and attack them the way they need to be attacked, and present them the way they need to be presented. Oftentimes, if you have multiple injuries and accidents to the same body part, apportionment becomes an issue. We've discussed apportionment. If you broke your arm 10 years ago and you broke it again, well, your break today is going to have to be apportioned between the old injury and the new injury. How much of your permanent disability today, how much of your scheduled loss of use today is from accident A and accident B? If you hurt your back a couple times, how much is from accident A and accident B and accident C? I think our record here is 25. We have a client who had 25 different accidents. All different body parts, but obviously a lot of overlap there. Make sure everybody knows about it. Please, please, please. Doctor shopping, another red flag, and another thing the insurance company is going to they're going to have a parade with banners and floats in front of the judge to make it seem like you are shopping around for the best opinion and not the best doctor when you switch doctors. When you get hurt, you go to the hospital. A lot of times the hospital will have you go see the orthopedist that you saw, the neurologist that you saw, but settle in with a doctor. And if at the initial stages of your case you're not happy and you want to switch doctors, by all means. Being happy with your doctor, being comfortable with your doctor is the most important thing to you getting better. And if you're not happy with your doctor, make that switch as early as possible. If you do it at the very end of your case, it looks bad. Okay? I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in, and Mr. De Leon has an issue here. I promise I'm going to get to your question, Brian. I'm almost done ranting. I was ranting so good there. I just want to keep the flow going. This is the last slide anyway. So, although Ms. B is correct when she says yes, like and subscribe. Wonderful gem. Am I the wonderful gem? That's awesome. How do I protect my impairment rating and my money? So like we said before about malingering, don't do it. Be honest. Give your full effort during examinations. tell the truth about your pain levels. Exaggerating pain levels, it doesn't work. Nobody could be a 10 out of 10 all day and not have a mental breakdown. Okay. Be honest. The doctors have seen it all. And yes, they're going to interpret things in the best way for them and their client, for lack of a better term. I get it, but they've seen it all. Don't exaggerate. Don't malinger. It's going to hurt you. Make sure you disclose those past injuries. This is like a kind of a recap. Disclose your past injuries to you and your IME doctor and your lawyer so that we know about it and we can put it on your claim form. And if your claim is already filed and it wasn't mentioned on there, we could file an amended claim form. I'd rather file an amended claim form 3 or 6 months later or whatever it is, even if it's a week or whatever, before somebody else picks up on it and hits you with it. If it's thrown in your face, it's going to hurt. If I do it as your lawyer and file an amended claim form saying, by the way, we left this out, but this is what happened 10 years ago. At least we got out in front of it and we minimized the damage. Attend all of your appointments. Listen to your doctor. Keep your appointments. Do what your doctor says. Okay? Your doctors are busy people. If you're not following their medical advice, if you're not getting the treatment that they're recommending, if you're not going to physical therapy, if you're not taking the medications that they're prescribing you, you know, these doctors are busy too, and they want to help the people who want to be helped. And when it comes time to write those reports and testify, they're going to be honest about it. They're not going to put their license on the line for one client. They're not going to lie on your behalf. They're going to be honest. Yeah, he was non-compliant. I prescribed him physical therapy and he waited 6 months to go and he only went twice. Well, now you look like a real shit. And the judge is not going to be kind to you if that's how your doctor is talking about you. So listen to your doctors, follow their instructions, get the treatment that you need, get yourself as good as you could really get yourself, because that's where you want to be. And this way your case can finish in a way that's favorable to you. Make sure everything is documented. If you did have a past medical problem, an injury, an accident, something, make sure you tell your doctor, Doc, please make sure you put this in your report. Please write it down. There's nothing wrong with asking the front desk on the way out, hey, I'm going to come back in. Let's reschedule that appointment. And by the way, can you email me the report from today's visit so I can just review it? Because I did tell the doctor to add some very important information. I want to make sure it gets its way in there. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the right way to do things. And that's all we want to do here is we want to do things the right way. If you do it the right way all the time, you get the best results. It's when you start cutting corners and trying to pull a fast one that you're going to get hammered. And we don't want that to happen to you. What else do we got here? Make sure you finish all of your treatment before MMI. Like I said, doctor, has the patient reached maximum medical improvement? Yes. Has he gotten all the treatment he could possibly need? That's where this is one of those wind him up and let him go questions. You ask the doctor that question and you sit back and you drink your coffee and you listen for the 15-minute response he's going to give about, well, first we recommended physical therapy and he got 16 visits of physical therapy and he had some minor improvements. And then we noticed that he was getting ridiculous symptoms down his leg from his low back. So we sent him from an MRI and the MRI revealed X, Y, and Z. And from that we did trigger point injections, and I thought maybe chiropractic care might help him since the physical therapy was done, and he got a little chiropractic care. He felt better after the chiropractic treatments for a day or two, but then the pain came back, and then we went and did pain management. We put him on medication, and the doctor's going to explain every mode of treatment you've gotten and what it's done to you, and how it's helped or not helped or whatever, and that picture is beautiful. And it's a lot better than, doctor, has he reached maximum medical improvement? I guess so. I recommended physical therapy. He went 3 times, and then we never heard from him ever again until I got a letter from the lawyer or the judge saying that we need a permanency report. And hey, he breezed into the office and asked for a permanency report and an examination. I haven't really seen him. Now you look like a dope, and now it's gonna hurt you. Don't let it hurt you. It's the things that are in your control that you have power over. Take advantage of it. Make sure you finish your treatment. Highlight your limitations. Explain how the injury affects your ability to find new work. Those are discussions you should have with your doctor. And sometimes if it's non-related things, let's think of an example here. I'm having a tough time. Any prior or relevant medical history that could have an impact on your ability to look for work, make sure your doctor knows about that. Get a second opinion if necessary. Switch your doctors, switch them early if you're not happy with your doctors. If you get a bad rating, consider filing an appeal. Who are you going to talk to when you consider filing an appeal? Your lawyer. If you didn't have a lawyer and you got a bad finding on your schedule loss or your permanent disability, guess what? Very few lawyers are going to take your case at that point because they weren't they weren't part of the process to get to that point, and they don't know what's going on with your case. And it's hard to now jump in with both feet and try to do something that's going to have an impact and get anywhere on appeal. So you should have a lawyer along the way, while the process is unfolding. As you know, I am a lawyer. 212-406-8989. That's me. Call me. Consider settling in advance. And like I said before, and I've said it on a million different lives and videos that we've done, I like to kind of anticipate that MMI finding. I like to start the process as we're getting close to MMI. Think of, I can't really use any football references because New York football is terrible, but just think of the running back is charging down the field and he's not in the end zone yet. He's on the 10, but he's got the steam going into the end zone. That's when you want to start that process because you don't know if he's going to trip over his shoelaces or get taken out from behind. You don't know what's going to happen, but the anticipation's high and you want to use that to your advantage. So trying, at least starting the negotiation process in advance can be to your benefit, and it can oftentimes result in a higher settlement value. And then the last tip, the greatest tip, have a lawyer. We know what to look for. We know how to argue impairment, schedule loss. We know what to highlight, what not to highlight. We know how to cross-examine the insurance company's doctor to show where he didn't do a good job. Statistics have shown having a lawyer gets you better settlement results, gets you better impairment rating findings, gets you overall better results. Why would you not want to have a lawyer? The consultation's free. If you're on the fence about it, make an appointment, sit down with somebody, talk to them. A workers' comp attorney here in New York cannot charge you for a consultation. Just get some clarity on the situation and then make a decision on whether or not it's the right thing for you. With that, folks, I think that was the end of my rant, my rave, and I'm happy that you let me do it. And now we're going to get to your wonderful preguntas. I don't know if that's the plural of question, but. So retired UPS guy always has great questions. Hello, Rex. I believe he's in California, if I recall correctly. Can I go on state disability, not SSDI, which is federal, once my CNR is approved? Does my settlement amount affect my state disability if I were to be approved? Have you done this in New York? Can I go on state disability, not federal disability, once my settlement is approved? Generally speaking, here in New York State, very good question. The answer is no. New York State temporary disability is for, generally speaking, off-the-job accidents. If you get hurt at work, you get comp. If you get hurt, you slip it in the shower, you get New York State disability. And generally speaking, you can't go after one after the other one's finished. But I don't know the laws where you are. And like I said, I believe you're in California. Speak to your attorney about that. It's a very good question. But Social Security is also an option for you. Brian is finally settling a 7-year-long case. I got a voucher to go back to CC and learn something new. Give me CC, my friend. What does that mean? I was a truck driver. I was going to ask, once I receive a check, what's the best way to get it investing? That's a very good question. People have done 100 different things, and I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a financial advisor. I need one. I need help, like we all do. We need to know what to do with our money when we have it. But speak to somebody. There are fantastic financial advisors out there who could help you out. If you guys ever want to know who I use, call my office. I'll give you the phone number. There's companies, Edward Jones. Companies like that can give you some advice on what to do with your money and how to invest it and let it grow. Because listen, people get mad when they say, well, like we said before, a 75% disability gets you 7.7 years of benefits. And they say, well, if you add up what I'm entitled to, they would have owed me $585,000 and we're only settling my case for $220,000. This is bull crap. But you could get that big number over a 7-year span, or you can get a nice big fat lump sum check, and your weekly benefits get suspended at that point. But if you invest that money properly, smart, it could grow and pay you dividends and it could grow into something that you could use, and you could wind up getting more money out of it. So smart investing is super important. And Brian, I commend you like you have no idea, because it's so, I don't want to say it's rare, but there are so many clients that go out and buy a Range Rover. There are so many clients that go out and go on an elaborate vacation, and then they come back and their money's gone. There are so many people that dump it in a place where it shouldn't be. Invest your money, be smart with it, let it grow, let it help you, let it help your family. You're hurt, and if you weren't hurt, you wouldn't have gotten a big settlement award. Use it to help you in place of the salary that you're unfortunately no longer getting. Very, very smart, very, very good direction that you're going here, Brian. I'm sorry that you have such a horrible case that took 7 years to settle, but you're a smart guy for looking to invest your money. Another fantastic comment is from Steph. She's telling me that I'm looking good and sounding good. I got a haircut and everything for you folks. So yes, thank you. Paul Vasquez, hi Rex. When reaching MMI, I know payments stop. How long does it take to get your PPD payments? It depends. So here in New York State, when you're reaching MMI, when your doctor files that C4.3 report, and this is a discussion we've had and a discussion I'm probably going to have until they change something, he's going to give you his opinion on your permanent partial disability. If up until that point he's been finding you totally disabled, and now he's saying you have a 90% permanent partial disability, well, now you're no longer totally disabled. You're partially disabled, which means you can do something. So the insurance company at that hearing is going to raise what's known as labor market attachment. They're going to say, you are now able to do something. You need to maintain an attachment to the labor market. You need to go out and look for work within your restrictions. And if you don't, we're going to suspend your benefits. And that happens at that point in time sometimes. And it's very, very dramatic and shocking to somebody who's been getting benefits for the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And now next thing you know, you're telling them, hey, bub, you better go look for work or they're going to suspend your money like in a couple weeks. And it's a lot, but it's something that people need to be aware of and keep in mind. And, you know, as an attorney, you're trying to fend that off as long as possible and keep your client getting money so he can live his life. And, you know, we try to explain it. We try to let people anticipate that it might be a reality, but it hits them like a ton of bricks sometimes. And it's hard because, you know, sir, they've been raising this for the last 4 hearings, and we are successfully playing defense here, and it hasn't been required by the judge, but now it's been required by the judge, and then they get pissed off at us like we've done something wrong. If the doctor finds a permanent partial disability, they're going to most likely raise labor market attachment, which is going to come with a requirement that you look for work within your restrictions. It's your obligation to do it at that point in time. And the thing that frustrates us is on that C4.3 form, there is a section of the 3rd or 4th page that says what is the person's work capabilities. Very heavy work, medium work, light work, sedentary work, less than sedentary work, but there's nothing on there that says totally disabled, no work. So if the doctor checks off any of those boxes, even the less than sedentary box, he better give a really, 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 really good explanation why he thinks his opinion of less than sedentary work means totally disabled. Otherwise, a work search is going to be on your horizon. So that's when it would happen. How long does it take to get your PPD benefits? Well, if your benefits were suspended because labor market attachment has been raised, you need to demonstrate labor market attachment. And a lot of times the judges will do it all at one hearing. They'll set your case for depositions from the doctors on your level of disability. Then they will have a return date where you're going to go back to court for the judge to hear arguments on the depositions, arguments about the level of your disability. Then the judge is going to hear your testimony on your vocational factors and use those 2 factors to put together to figure out your LWEC. And again, of course, we're talking about non-scheduled cases here. Cases with multiple injuries could include schedules. But if you have those non-scheduled cases and you're not working, that's generally what happens. So the judge is going to hear the arguments about your level of disability for all your injuries. The judge is going to hear your testimony and your lawyer's arguments on your vocational factors and how that should be used to raise your overall LWEC, your overall level of permanent disability. And then the judge is also going to hear at some point in time your testimony and the production of your evidence on LMA, labor market attachment. So a lot of times the judge will do everything all in one hearing and make those decisions all at one time. and this way it's done. And hopefully, if the judge rules in your favor and you've had to look for work and you've done a good job, your benefits will continue. And if your vocational factors show that your level of disability is higher, you get more money over a longer period of time. If you don't do a good work search and it's been a requirement and your money was suspended, it's going to stay suspended until you do a good work search. Or if your lawyer is good like me and can work a settlement out in certain circumstances, you can kind of get around that. So that's a long answer, short question, but folks, a great question. I also want to mention the Mets won a great one last night. I don't know if you saw it. They were down 6-2. They came back and beat the Orioles. All the while, the Phillies got walked off on a 3-run inside the Parker by the Giants. I love it. I love baseball. Ms. B, what's up, baby girl? That was inappropriate. Hi, Miss B. You always have fun comments, so I'm just being fun back. Paul Vasquez had unscheduled lumbar surgery. So that's just to go back to what he was saying before. So if you're reaching MMI and you go and have unscheduled lumbar surgery, lumbar injury. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said surgery. Yes, we're talking about LWEC in your case then. So what the explanation I gave you before completely applies to your situation. Miss Chapman, I know South Carolina laws are different. My husband had an injury to his leg 3 years ago. And please, I hope there's more to the question. Is there more? Is there more to the question? I just scrolled and I don't see more question. Here in New York, that's a schedule loss of use injury. Off key. Yeah, I don't know. Here in New York, that would be a schedule case like we described earlier. Ish Silverman, lumbar spinal cord 1 through 5. Okay. You're giving me bits and pieces here. Lumbar, left knee, and mental health. 10 years plus on work comp. What's your question, my friend? Can you use clinical trials when on workers' compensation? If your doctor's using it for his testimony as medical authority, I don't see why not. William, I have an impairment rating hearing August. IME gave me 10% loss, crushed foot, major nerve damage, 3 surgeries, broke all 5 metatarsal bones, have flashbacks. What percentage should I ask for? Well, when you say you have okay, so here I'm hearing about a foot injury and a foot injury only for the most of this question, and it sounds like a scheduled loss. But when you tell me you have flashbacks, is there a psychological component here? Are you working? Are you not working? There's a lot of different factors here. If you have a psych component to your case, or it's more than just a foot injury, it's a foot with a back or a leg and a back, and you're still out of work, then you'd be looking at an LWEC type of situation. If it's a foot and nothing else, then you're looking at a scheduled loss. Their doctor put down 10% loss of use for a crush injury with 5 broken metatarsals and 3 surgeries. So when scheduled loss of use is assessed, generally what they look at is range of motion. So yes, certain surgeries can add, and certain, they call them special considerations in the guidelines, will add to your level of permanent disability. If you had a total knee replacement, it's 35% to start. There's special considerations. But generally speaking, what they look at is range of motion. So with your foot, they want to look at flexion and pronation and supination and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to assess you based upon your range of motion. But you should make sure, the first thing I said, make sure you get that report from your doctor. And if you already had the IME, bring the IME report and show you, hey, doc, here's what the IME said about my foot. What do you think? Easy peasy. Get a good opinion. 1981, Mariki. I've been on workers' comp for 2.5 years. I have bilateral shoulders, hips, knees, low back, thoracic spine, neck, and depression. How do they calculate settlement? I'm 44 years old. I know you're 44 years old. You're 2 years younger than me. So they're going to, you have schedulable injuries and non-schedulable injuries. And if you've been out of work this whole time, here in New York, you're going to go that LWEC route that we discussed. They're going to look at your overall loss of wage earning capacity. Well, the back is, he's got this wrong with his back and this wrong with his neck and both hips and both knees and this and that and this. And the judge is going to add all that together in his mind and come up with what he thinks your impairment rating is. And then he's going to look into your vocational factors. Excuse me. Whew. Yes, Catherine, I sneezed. I sneeze loud. I'm sorry. they like make it seem like like I set a bomb off in here because I have a loud sneeze. So, Mariki had 3 lumbar surgeries, right shoulder. You've been through it. If you're not working right now, you're in New York, you're going the LWAC route, my friend. Ms. B, after a second medical evaluation, how long does it take for a company to do an impairment rating? After a second medical evaluation, it's hard to say how long anything. I mean, I don't know if you're in New York or not. Usually, those things they want to give you a year. On schedules, it's a year. On non-schedules, they want to give you a little more time to recuperate, to reach that point of MMI. But if you had the evaluation, the letter should be coming shortly thereafter. There are time restrictions in the law as to how long they can wait to send out those reports. So again, I don't know what state you're in, but if you're in New York, it's a lawyer question because I don't know what state you're in. RJ MacPot, can lawyers accurately estimate settlement accounts? My friend got a ballpark figure for his New Year's accident by March, but I'm still waiting for mine a year later. Every case is different. Every case is different. Every carrier is different. Every injury is different. Every claimant's different. So of all those different factors, 3 of the 4 can be identical, but that 4th one that's different can change the complexity of a case and make it seem entirely different. Is your friend back at work? Is your friend out of work? What's your stat? There's so many different factors, and you got to look at each one on an independent basis and assess it from the ground up. And I do that. Not only do I, the way I do it, and I don't know if every lawyer does it the same way, but the way I do it each time I look at that file. And I know it takes a little more time. And, a lot of times a client will come in and they'll say, they'll come in, I'll say, how you doing? And they'll say, you wanted to see me? I say, yeah, give me 30 seconds because I'm just going through my own mental preparation here. What are the sites of injury? What's the average weekly wage? What's the date of accident? What's the lost time? Do we have an impairment rating? Do we not have an impairment rating? Are they currently being paid? Are they not being paid? What does the most recent medical report say? What does the most recent IME say? Is there surgery on the table that's being requested? Is it being denied? You want to just kind of paint that picture in your head and put those building blocks together. And even though they're building blocks, every building is going to be a little bit different. And you want to do that and get an understanding of what the case looks like so you can understand what the value is going to be. And like I said, I do it every time I sit down with that client, every time I prep that hearing, every time I talk to that person on the phone. I want to get a full understanding so we know what we're doing driving forward. So yes, it could be that there's some difference between your case and your friend's case that's making the outcomes seem differently. But if you have any questions, give me a call. I don't know if you're in New York or not. 212-406-8989. Teddy Grams, great name. How long does it usually take to hear back from a counteroffer? All right, what you're asking me is how long does it take to hear back from the insurance company after you make a demand? How long does it take to get a counteroffer back? And there's, we're dealing with human beings, and some people are answering emails as they're coming in, and some people wait till Friday, and some people don't answer them at all. So it's impossible to answer that question because you're dealing with people. Usually as an attorney, we kind of know the players. We've dealt with these adjusters before. We kind of know each other, and you try to make friends and you try to be nice to get things done and move the process. But there's really no answer. How long does it usually take? I've had answers. I've sat there and sent emails almost like text messages. Boom, 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 boom. Case settled. Just like that. Almost like you're texting the person. You're getting responses back and forth so quickly. And I've had cases where I am like, it's just like it's slower than slow. Or you don't get an answer at all. So it's really tough to give you an honest answer there. Ms. B wants to know, what if your level of disability and vocational background has changed significantly after the injury? So your level of disability should change significantly after the injury. You were not injured when you had the injury, and now you have the injury, so now you're injured. But your vocational background really wouldn't change all that much, but it can. One place that we see changes in vocational background, I'm a registered nurse, and I'm a home health aide registered nurse, and I got hurt in 2018, and my registration, my accreditation, my licensing has expired. So I can't go back to work as a registered nurse, even if I wanted to at this point, without getting recertified. So certain times people have certificates and achievements and licenses and things like that that expire or go stale when they're not being used, and that could have a negative impact on your vocational background, which may be used in the assessment of your LWEC. Great question. Great question. You guys, it's like the third or fourth gold star I gave today. I did give one to myself, I know, but whatever. Great questions. How many weeks do you get for a torn ligament in my ankle? I get no weeks of benefits for a torn ligament in your ankle, Jay. An ankle is a foot. An ankle in New York is worth 205 weeks for 100% schedule loss of use. So if you have a 10% loss of use, you would get 20.5 weeks at the total rate of compensation. What's a torn ligament worth? I don't know that there's a specific special consideration for a torn ligament. I don't know what ligament we're talking about. I don't think there is one. So the doctor's going to do range of motion assessment on your foot, and he's going to use that finding of the range of motion. If you go on the Workers' Compensation Board website, they have the impairment guidelines, and it'll show you if you can, imagining this is a foot, if you can only push your foot that far, or whatever it is, it'll tell you what's normal and what's not normal. And it'll actually tell you if you can only go, 45 out of 90, if 90 is normal and 45 is the most you can go, that would be a 30% loss of use. They'll give you that guide. So it's something you might want to take a look at and show to your doctor. Richie Chop, what if I don't want to settle and I want to go for the max amount of weeks? How does my lawyer get paid? Good question. I know you're asking me. He's asking about LWEC. So if you get classified with a loss of wage earning capacity and you don't want to settle, you say, you know what? I have a 75% permanent partial disability. I want my 400 weeks of benefits. Understand that it gets paid out as workers' compensation benefits. They're weekly awards of benefits paid bi-weekly by most insurance companies. So you're going to get a check every 2 weeks for the next 7.69 or whatever it was years until your cap runs out. How does your lawyer get paid? Your lawyer gets the equivalent of 15 weeks of your compensation paid out over time. So let's just say you're entitled to $1,000 a week. That's your rate that you're going to get. Your lawyer would be entitled to $15,000. And what the judge will do with you and with the lawyer, you'll figure out how you want it paid. Take out $100 a week until it's paid off. Take out $100 a week with the carrier to pay the lawyer every 10 weeks in installment payments. So the lawyer gets a $1,000 check every 10 weeks, but you're going to get $100 taken out of your check every week until the lawyer's paid off. That's generally how it works. Richie, that's keeping with the theme today. Another gold star question. You guys are killing the gold stars. So Brian, who we spoke to earlier, just finished up a 7-year lawsuit, ended up winning, Mazel Tov, and got more out of it and settled. Sadly, it was 7 years, but now it's over. I got a voucher for CC to study. Oh, college to take it serious. Listen, it's nice when it's over. It feels like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders, and you get there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and life perks up a little bit. And I've spoken to clients in very similar circumstances, and they come in, you deal with somebody while they're injured and they're going through it, and they come in and they're down and they're not happy, and just to get a smile on their face is a bit of a chore, and you want to make them feel good. And then when they come in after their case finally settles and closes, especially when it's as positive as that, it's like the clouds break and the sunshine comes in, and you see how much happy they are. Usually they come bringing cookies and, hey, you guys did a great job, and it makes us feel good that the client's happy. But I've spoken to clients about that, and I've heard the stories. And why is my face so lopsided? ESQ Flow has a less than positive comment, but people turn the corner, and it's nice to see. How do they determine schedule loss of use for parts such as the shoulder, neck, or back? So here in New York State, the neck or back is not a schedule loss of use. It's not a schedulable site. The shoulders are. So if you have multiple injuries, you have the neck, the back, and the shoulder, well, then we look at the next set of factors. Are you working or you're not working? If you are working, are you working full duty or light duty, reduced earnings? So there's a lot of different factors here, which is why having an attorney who knows the system is so important. But at the most basic level, a neck and a back is not a schedulable body part. You won't see it on the chart. You won't see it on the schedule. It's just not there. The brain, also not schedulable. The brain is evaluated just like a neck or a back is in terms of permanent partial disability rankings. But you want to see a good neurologist to make sure that a head injury is properly assessed. Brian wants to know the same thing. That's what I want to know, Ms. B. I have epilepsy. Jesus, man. And the ER after the accident ran 4 hours. The test concluded I had a seizure to cause the accident. I never had them before, but never had surgery since. Okay, well, if there was a brain injury that was found to be causally related to the accident, your neurologist would give an assessment as to your level of permanent impairment. And Brian, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Brian, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Ish and I stand together on this one. Hypothetically speaking, what if a person has injuries to body parts but also has a head injury and psychological injury? How's that calculated when it comes to seeing if you can return to the workforce? Again, if you have non-schedulable injuries and schedulable injuries, we look at additional factors to determine which path we want to pursue and how we want to try to settle your case. If you're back at work at full duty despite these injuries, well, then looking at the schedule values might be the smarter thing to do. If you're not working or you're working at reduced earnings, then pursuing a non-schedulable LWEC type of conclusion might be the way to go with your case. Sweet Creations. Sorry. Spilled. Ask the doc about adding the other knee. Also need procedure to remove scar tissue. I think you're getting to. Didn't know you had to use your own insurance first. Duh. Need procedure to remove scar tissue. Is there more to the question? You don't use your insurance first. If it's work related, you go to your doctor. If the doctor feels it's part of your comp case, your doctor should be billing workers' comp. So Ms. B is asking about her question before with the head injury and psychological components. So it all factors in. You want to talk to your doctor and make sure that he factors all this in when he's doing his permanency evaluation. Sweet is going through the worst hardship ever. Advice, please. Talk to your lawyer. Your doctor shouldn't be putting this through your private health insurance if it's work-related, most likely. I'm not there. I don't know your case, your situation. But if things are related to your case, they should be part of your case. Brian's got more for me. He was at the shoulder specialist office, finished up and was walking out and woke up back in the office and in a chair, and he had a seizure in the specialist office. Brian, my friend, wow. He had a workers' comp doctor see me 10 minutes and wrote off. I fell asleep at the wheel where the ER at the accident stated I had a seizure, which was the cause of my injuries. I had 7 head and brain surgeries for my own insurance on my own from epilepsy. A neurologist wants me to have some week-long stays to see me seize to a brain implant since my work. So you still got a little road ahead of you. I had an issue that was settling a year ago, but somehow they didn't know I'm permanently disabled and didn't work and get SSI. So now they fixed it, and there probably was an MSA component there. I don't know what to do once I get the check. I'm expecting it in 2 months from now. Talk to your lawyer. Talk to your lawyer and ask them what they recommend. Like I said, if you're looking to invest the money, you could always call me. I'll give you my guy's information. He's fantastic. You can ask any friends, relatives, family, anything like that who have a trusted financial head out there that they use. It's a super smart thing to do. No matter what, any doctor wanting your health records needs. All right, I think we're getting off track here. Let me answer a couple more here. I'm already over an hour. And I'm out of water, so I'm getting thirsty. All right, a few more here. Steph always has a positive comment about hitting the like button, subscribing. Rex, I wish I could talk to you, but your staff won't let me since I'm not in NYC. We get busy here. And unfortunately, if I'm overloaded, if I'm doing hearings, I can't always get on the phone. But they know what to ask you and how to answer your questions. And if you're out of state, they'll help you find an attorney if you need one. I try to get on every call. It's simply not possible. Yes, Ish. Wow. Brian, I hope you feel better, my friend. Jazzy J, how can changing workers' compensation, how can changing jobs affect workers' compensation? So if you go back to work, obviously lost time has ended unless you're working at reduced earnings. If you're not able to perform your old job and the only job you can get pays less than what you were making when you had your accident, you have a reduced earnings claim, generally speaking. So it can affect it, but you have to make sure your lawyer knows about it and knows how to present the evidence in a way that we can get you benefits. Very good question. Very good questions today. And as usual, there was like 4 questions in the first 15 minutes. And I'm like, it's going to be a slow day. And all of a sudden, you guys, the floodgates opened. Ted, can you see 2 orthopedics? One was recommended by my lawyer, and the other one was a referral from the hospital I went to when I got injured. So you can't treat with 2 doctors. You can get a second opinion, but when it comes to seeing a doctor and treating with a doctor and having a doctor, you can only have one here in New York, generally speaking. Again, there are exceptions and whatever, but that's just the general rule. Robin Simmons, am I supposed to get maintenance PT? I am supposed to get maintenance PT. Have settled the indemnity part. The medical's still open. I am supposed to get maintenance PT. Do I have to have a medical order and workers' comp say it's okay? I was told I don't need the okay. Generally speaking, when you settle with an indemnity only settlement like you have, the restrictions seem to lighten up. Technically, the rules and the laws are the same, but the insurance companies tend to lighten up a little bit with the enforcement. So if that treatment is within the guidelines and it's related and necessary, you shouldn't have too much of a problem. And worst case scenario, your doctor will need to request authorization, which they can do. They should know how to do that. Okay. For technical, he appreciates me and my office, and I appreciate you, and thank you. Let's see, a couple more here. Yes, CCA, I figure, was community college. So butterfly in the sky. What happens when a case doesn't settle? Well, if we can't reach an agreement with the insurance company, then the judge is going to make a decision on your issues, whatever they might be. And if we're talking permanent disability, then we're talking permanent disability. A couple of questions came in on Instagram, which I just want to check out. Good afternoon. This is from Panamanian King. Good afternoon, Rex. I've been in workers' compensation for 18 months. I got hurt from work being a school custodian, falling down the stairs with garbage from the 4th and 3rd floors, and I hurt my bilateral shoulders. Sorry to hear that. Lower back and right knee. I already had surgery on my left shoulder and right knee, but the surgery didn't come out as planned. Now I'm in more pain, and my orthopedic put in for knee replacement, and I'm also waiting for low back surgery and my left knee, I'm assuming. And yes, I have a lawyer, but I feel like the lawyer doesn't really let me know anything about my case. Well, that communication needs to be opened up. You need to have a chat with your lawyer and ask him the questions that you need answers to. Sometimes it's not so easy, and I'm not defending your lawyer or whatever. It's, people say, oh, you're not really telling me about my case. Well, what do you want to know? I could sit here and talk about your case for the next 4 hours and get into every minute detail, but, that's not very efficient for me, not very informative for you, because you're gonna lose it in the first 5 minutes. Ask the questions that you want answers to. How much treatment? How much money? How long does this take? What should I expect? Ask those big questions. And if you're still not getting the answers that are making you comfortable, you know what to do. I don't want to sit here and tell you what to do, but the open lines of communication between a patient and a doctor are primary to me. I think that's the most important thing. You need to be open and honest and comfortable communicating with your doctor, and just next to that is your lawyer. You need to be able to talk to your lawyer, tell them what you need to tell them, ask the questions you need to ask, get the information you need, move on, so you can have a reasonable expectation of what's to come and figure out a way to handle it. So you need to open up that line of communication. Call your lawyer. Set up if he's not going to take the time to talk on the phone the second you call, because we are busy and we might have hearings or YouTube streams or whatever it is. Make an appointment. Whether it's a phone call or an in-office meeting, make an appointment to have a chat with your lawyer about the things you want to talk about. There's nothing wrong with doing that. We do it all the time. We're running low on fuel here. The insurance doctor is overly hands-on if the insurance company doctor is overly hands-on during your examination, leads to further injury, is there any action that can be taken there? Yes, I believe there is. If somebody hurts you, you can always take action. I've heard the allegations before. I've never really seen it come to pass, but I'm sure it's happened in the past. Talk to your lawyer about that. You got to love this. You gotta love it. Although Starling Marte is on the 15-day IL with some knee bruise or something. I was told I don't have to go back to work or look for work. 65, the end of year, settled indemnity, have PP disability. I know on the 16th what's going on my back, medical still open. Okay. What are your thoughts? Am I supposed to go back to work? So many factors and so much information I would need to answer that question. So it's impossible to answer that. Do you have a lawyer, Robin? Talk to your lawyer. And good afternoon, DJ SB. Internet. LVAC. What's LVAC? I know LWEC. All right. Folks, one more. My injuries are not allowing me to go back to an industry I've been in for 28 years because of my age, 63. I'm deemed untrainable. Can I get reimbursed for the money I lost for not going back? In New York State, no. You get compensated for your lost time and your level of disability. So that's not a factor in determining what you'd be entitled to. 72 in the chat, only 27 likes. Ms. B's onto something here, folks. What's up with that? Hit the like button. I don't even care. No, I do care. I don't even know what like that turns into. The subscribers, I like to know. I like to know that people are there and I'm connecting with people and I'm helping them out. Like Mr. Marte, can I settle my workers' compensation case and keep my third party open? How will my lawyer handle the fees? You can. Again, something that happens frequently. Not keeping your workers' compensation open or your settling your workers' comp and keeping your third party open happens all the time. What I'm getting at here is your lawyers should be communicating with each other and with you. I like to work with lawyers who I know that I've worked with in the past that know what they're doing and they know what I'm doing, and we kind of have that symbiotic relationship going and we can rely on each other. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it's an attorney I don't know. And sometimes I get a call from a client who says that their third-party case is settled and what's going to happen with their surgery that was just approved. And sometimes, things like that happen. That communication needs to be there, and you're in the middle. If you don't know what the ramifications are and what the interaction is, call both your lawyers, send an email, and just say, hey, can we all get on the phone and have a chat? I need 10 minutes of your time. No problem. So that's something that you need to, you should be able to do. Last question. Miss B is yelling at me that I missed her question, and she's been showing the love all day, and she's been asking fantastic questions, and she wants my help. So I'm going to answer that question. And then with that, folks, I'm going to be signing off. But she wants to know, can workers' compensation get your records from psychiatrists or psychologists and read what you say to them, or is it still confidential? I went to a second medical evaluation and they asked me if I reached MMI. All my treatment was denied, so the answer was no. Okay, you're asking about this question with in the workers' compensation world, they can get HIPAA releases to access medical records that they're not otherwise that they don't otherwise have access to. So if you're claiming a psychological disability, whether it's a psychological or a back or a knee or psychiatric or whatever, it's all the same for the most part. And that's not entirely true, but it's kind of true. It's generally true. If you have a pre-existing condition, they want to know about it because they want to know about apportionment. They want to know how much of those factors contribute to your overall level of disability. So they could request a HIPAA release. They could access those records. What specifically is divulged or would remain privileged or confidential, I don't know the answer to when it comes to psychological or psychiatric medical records. But for the most part, they do have access to those records. And you get that. You just want to see if they will see the personal things I say, like my boss is a real potentially yes. Potentially yes. Okay. With that, folks, Miss B, I don't know if I gave you the gold star today, but you asked so many good questions and you were like, you get teacher's pet status out of today's showing. You did a very good job. Crazy Dude, it is a quick one. Do temporary disability benefits have to get paid back? No, but if it's a schedule loss case, they get credit for them. If it's a non-schedule LWEC case, then no, they don't get credit for them at all. Okay? Yay, you got teacher pet status. Good job. Folks, thank you so much. We are going to be back again next week. Not on Thursday, but probably on Wednesday. Oh, shit. How we doing on Wednesday? I'm shooting for Wednesday afternoon, probably 5 o'clock, folks. Steph, keep your eyes on things. I'm gonna figure out the best time, but right now, Wednesday, July 16th at 5 p.m. will be our next live. Subject to change, as I always do. I was supposed to do this tomorrow, but I got into the office and had time, and I wanted to give you time, and I've given you an hour and 17 minutes, and it's well worth it, and I'm happy to do it. So with that, folks, thanks so much. Thanks for the great questions, and I know I didn't get to all of them because you guys started flowing with questions, and I got a little overwhelmed, and but keep them coming. As always, you can call me 212-406-8989. I wish you all the best, and I hope everybody's safe, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.